The turbulent, colorful years after World War I have been variously described as the Golden Age, the get-rich-quick era, the Jazz Age, and, of course, the Roaring Twenties. This sensationally significant period spawned high-speed automobiles, movie madness, flappers, prohibition, crystal-set radios, the Charleston, and a kind of general mass hysteria. 1920, the threshold year of the Roaring Decade, was a time of change, upheaval, and national uncertainty. Millions of American families were looking for something solid on which they could build their future. Among them was a young farmer, his wife, his son, and 3 daughters. A family determined to stand together and shape a new life for themselves. They settled on 10 acres of rented land, planted berries, and sold them in a roadside stand. Nearly half a century has rolled by since that humble beginning. The march of time brought about unbelievable changes. The farm grew, became famous from coast to coast. Today, more than 4 million people a year come to visit America's amazing fun farm. Walter Knott and his family selected the heartland of Southern California as the location for their farm. Knott's Berry Farm is just a few freeway miles out of Los Angeles. The quiet country road where the Knott family built their berry stand has now become a busy boulevard. The farm has grown from 10 acres to a massive 200-acre family tourist attraction. The story behind the remarkable growth and transition of a simple berry farm into a celebrated tourist attraction, which has been visited by millions of people from all over the world, proves once again that fact is stranger than fiction. It's really the story of a young married couple, Walter and Cordelia Knott, of their struggle for survival through hard, difficult years. The original berry stand, which once stood beside the road, is still on the farm grounds, reminding us all of what can be accomplished by a family staying together and working together. In the beginning, their fondest hope was only for a better life. Together, they have created an historical and educational landmark for the enjoyment of everyone. Every day of the year, thousands of guests come to Knott's Berry Farm to walk through the streets of a real ghost town. Everywhere you look, you're reminded of our great Western heritage. The buildings of this ghost town were brought here from a score of real ghost towns scattered across half a dozen states in the great Southwest. From mining towns of Utah, Montana, and Nevada, from cattle towns of New Mexico and Arizona, from gold rush towns all over California. These priceless heirlooms of our nation's past were searched out and found. Abandoned, forgotten, and crumbling into ruin, these dusty, wind-swept buildings were brought here board by board and restored with loving care, resurrected from the dead for the wonderment of new generations, and as a lasting tribute to our forefathers. The first building brought to Ghost Town more than a quarter of a century ago was the Gold Trails Hotel. The Knott family found the hotel building in a deserted ghost town near Prescott, Arizona. The beveled glass doors were shipped to the mining camp by mule team. The date on the hotel, 1868, is coincidentally the same year Walter Knott's mother came to California by wagon train. In the turbulent days following the California gold rush, a number of churches were built. The Church of Reflections was originally constructed in 1876. It was rebuilt here in 1955. This comfortable 4-room log cabin is about 125 years old. A group of farmers built this little red schoolhouse in Beloit, Kansas in 1875. The desks, books, and potbelly stove are authentic. They all came with the building. The schoolhouse was purchased at auction, dismantled, trucked here, and reconstructed in 1952. Ghost Town is a true monument to the pioneering spirit that helped shape our nation and make it great. The very atmosphere carries you back in time to those days of high adventure and courage. As you stroll over the old boardwalks built with polished square nails, you may be walking in the footsteps of a notorious gunslinger, a famous lawman, or a miner who just struck it rich and became a millionaire overnight. Future generations will come here to look at the past, to touch it, to walk through these streets of 1,000 yesterdays alive with the fire of the roaring, robust bonanza days of a century past. In the words of Edgar Allan Poe, all that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. Who dream by day see many things escaping those who only dream by night. In these surroundings, a little imagination can take almost anyone back in time. Black Bart, the daring and notorious highwayman, once robbed this very stagecoach. It was built in Stockton, California in 1859. The holdup occurred in Gold Rush country near Marysville about 1878. Black Bart was after the Wells Fargo strongbox. Here at Knott's Berry Farm, the stagecoach line is also easy prey for armed bandits.
All right, let's have this strongbox. Put that money bag down here. Get along now with you. Right on there. Keep moving.
The robbers don't seem to bother business, though. As many as 70,000 passengers a month ride the stage line in the summertime. The Wells Fargo Express Company was established even before the California Gold Rush. But Black Bart almost put the company out of business. He robbed stagecoaches carrying Wells Fargo strongboxes 28 times over a 7-year period. He never shot anyone because Black Bart never carried a loaded gun. In the Gold Rush days, building supplies were very scarce, but drink was plentiful. So some enterprising miner would gather up the empty bottles and build himself a house made of bottles and mud. Most mining town jails were built like this one. 2x6s laid flat and spiked together, provided walls 6 inches thick, strong enough to hold any claim jumper till justice was done. Nearly 100 years ago, this old stone mill was grinding flour for the miners and first settlers of Yuba City in Northern California. The grist mill is powered by water, just as it was in those wonderful yesterdays. We moved out west to the Indians' land, but a dire revenge these redmen planned. In front of every general store they stand, offering tobacco in wooden hands. Inside the general merchandise store, visitors can sit around the pot-bellied stove, eat real hard rock candy, drink sarsaparilla, or browse through the hundreds of authentic items from an age gone but not forgotten. Fortunes were made or lost on the results of findings in the assay office. Miners took a sample from the diggings, and the assayer would determine how much gold per ton would be in the same kind of rock. Even when a miner struck it rich, getting the gold out of the rock was a problem. The rock had to be crushed. This is one of the simplest methods, called an arrasta. The idea came from Spain originally and was brought to the gold rush by Mexican and South American miners. This arrasta was hauled in from a lonely desert mine near Death Valley, which had long since been abandoned. After the rock was crushed and ground into a powder, it was extracted by panning or any other placer method. Many thousands of people have panned their first gold out of the old sluice box here at Knott's Berry Farm. Each person keeps the gold he finds in his pan and takes it home as a souvenir. Visitors of all ages carry away more than $20,000 in real gold every year. The great stampede for gold in '49 was one of the most exciting moments in history. While most people are fascinated with prospectors, miners, and their search for the elusive yellow metal, many of them have no idea what the inside of a real gold mine looks like. Knowing this, the Knott family built the Calico Gold Mine. It is the only one of its kind, and even though the Calico is designed for fun, in the depths of the mine are faithful reproductions of early mining techniques used in the real mines of the famed Comstock. Every detail is authentic, right down to the historic donkey engines and wood-planked mine cars. During the next 8 or 9 minutes, these folks will see caverns alive with geysers of hot steam, underground lakes, rivers, and waterfalls, an accurate demonstration of square-set timbering, mammoth subterranean caverns which appear to be millions of years old, filled with stalactites and stalagmites, a blasting explosion and a cave-in that almost traps the mine car train, and the very heart of any gold mine, the glory hole. This gigantic pit dug out of the bowels of the earth is called the glory hole because gold was found there in such abundance that this one location could be worked for a long time. In any mine, the glory hole was always a beehive of activity. You could stand in one place and be able to see many varied phases of gold mining. Some of the ore was dug right up with a pick and shovel. When solid rock barred the way, it was blasted to bits with dynamite. Timbers were cut to shore up new shafts and working ledges. Rocks filled with riches were loaded into ore cars to be taken out of the mine. Gold miners followed the vein regardless of whether it went straight down or straight up in the glory hole. The Calico Gold Mine is uniquely entertaining and informative. There's nothing else like it anywhere. For a rich experience when you visit the farm, be sure to see all that it has to offer. This old narrow-gauge railroad is another memento of the pioneer spirit of the Old West. The Colorado Rockies, cut by the Royal Gorge of the Arkansas River, were the last barrier to linking the nation's two coasts with rails. For the railroad that had the courage to bridge this last frontier, to go through the tortuous Rocky Mountains and not around them, there was a fortune waiting in minerals, timber, livestock, and agriculture. In 1871, the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad laid the first 76 miles of track for a narrow-gauge railroad from Denver to Colorado Springs. The 3 feet wide tracks, or narrow gauge, were considered the best suited to pass through the narrow canyons of that rugged country. Trains of this type flourished for over half a century. They formed an important part of the American transportation system and helped open the West. But in time, their use began to decline. The Knott family brought this train out of retirement, laid the tracks here on the farm, repainted the cars, and named it the Ghost Town and Calico Railroad. It is the only narrow-gauge passenger train in the United States operating on a year-round daily schedule. This grand old train is part of the lifeblood of our historic past. To each person who rides in her quaint old parlor cars and coaches, it's more than just a trip around the farm. It's a journey into the past. Knott's Berry Farm's Ghost Town is busting at the seams with entertainment for folks in search of fun and merriment that are out of the ordinary. Small wonder this place is called America's Amazing Fun Farm. On the edge of that crowd is the head of the family that started in a roadside berry stand and turned their farm into a major tourist attraction. This is Walter Knott. He knows more about the farm than anyone else on earth. It's his whole life. One of Walter's favorite diversions is strolling with the crowds through his farm that is now world famous. All he ever wanted to be was a good farmer. Ironically, his own ideas and imagination made that impossible. As the farm became more of a tourist attraction, Walter Knott found less and less time for farming. Still, he's rightfully proud of what he and his family have accomplished. The 4 children grew up on the farm. From the very beginning, each member of the family shared the work, the problems, the pleasures, and the eventual success. Knott's Berry Farm has become famous for many reasons. Not the least of them are the great chicken dinners. Mrs. Knott still tends the chicken dinner restaurant kitchen. It is her kitchen, and it always has been. In 1934, to help with the family expenses, Mrs. Knott began serving chicken dinners. 8 guests came the first day, twice that many the next day, and each day after that, the guests kept coming in larger numbers. Mrs. Knott cooked the dinners, of course, and they were served by the 3 daughters in one small room with 5 tables. The chicken dinners were served on Mrs. Knott's wedding china. It is difficult to believe that from that small beginning, so much has happened. Today, more than 2,100 guests can sit down for dinner at one time. Nearly 10,000 chicken dinners have been served here in one day. Shopping at Knott's has become a tradition for many Southern Californians, and over the years, the Knotts have invited other families to operate their own specialty and craft shops at the farm. The Knott children, now grown up, are equal partners in the farm. Russell Knott is the manager of this family enterprise, and with the farm growing every day, his responsibilities are increasing in every direction. As visitors to the farm browse through the 42 specialty shops, they are likely to encounter other members of the family. The gift shop features fabulous items imported from all over the world. The shop is operated by Virginia Knott Reef-Snyder. Whether you're looking for a souvenir, a gift for the folks back home, or something for your home, you'll find it here. If you like casual clothes and sportswear, drop in at the sports shop. Marion and Tony, the other 2 daughters, have found their careers in fashion. Marion Knott Anderson specializes in smart sportswear and dresses. Tony Knott Oliphant is the expert in the field of children's wear. One of the oldest traditions of the farm is the preserving kitchen. Tony's husband, Ken Oliphant, is one of the 3 sons-in-law who help keep the farm running smoothly. He took Mrs. Knott's original recipes that helped make the farm famous and has built a nationwide business. The mouth-watering goodness of these jams, jellies, and preserves are found in supermarkets and specialty stores all over the country. Marion's husband, Dwight Anderson, manages the steakhouse. Andy sees to it that every dinner lives up to the well-established reputation for prime charbroiled excellence. Throughout the years, Knott's Berry Farm has changed, and so has the family. It, too, has grown larger. Today, there are 9 grandchildren, and some of them are carrying on this family affair. The youngest is Sherry Reef Snyder, who is learning the business in Virginia's gift shop. The next youngest is Darrell Anderson. His training ground is the cable car kitchen. Steve Knott is in charge of security and farm housekeeping. Ken Knott manages the chicken dinner restaurant. Everyone connected with the farm knows that visitors are caught up by the wonderful atmosphere of the past, which provides a brief escape from the frantic pace of our 20th century world. Creating Ghost Town was a great adventure, a dream come true. For years now, the family fostered another dream, a big one. They wanted to construct an exact duplicate of the most historic building in America, Independence Hall. In the heart of Philadelphia stands the original Independence Hall, a massive structure, and the decisions that were made within its walls towered over all other events of our American history. In this building, the United States of America was born. Drawing the plans took months and required many trips to Philadelphia to inspect the original building. Shelves of books had to be read and reams of research material digested before a line could be drawn on the blueprints. Hundreds of color pictures had to be taken, both inside and outside of the building, for the problem involved not only constructing the edifice, but included fixtures and furniture that was such an important part of the whole picture. After months of painstaking research, the drawing and redrawing of hundreds of blueprints, construction was finally begun. Ken Reef Snyder, the son-in-law who's in charge of construction at the farm, was on hand along with Walter Knott to see that everything went according to plan. While the work of erecting the building was going on, other skilled men were building furniture, cabinets, and chandeliers. One of the most challenging exhibits for Independence Hall was the Liberty Bell. Little was known about the bell. No blueprints existed. Bud Hurlbut, an engineer and artisan who has long been at Knott's Berry Farm, turned to the original bell in Philadelphia. He measured and photographed every detail. The bell pattern was turned on a special lathe and was made of laminated wood sections. It's no small job creating an accurate pattern and casting a 2,080-pound bell. At the foundry, the crucibles glowed in white heat, and the sultry breath of the furnace danced in the air. The original Liberty Bell was cast in 1752, and yet more than 200 years later, as this bell was being cast, the method of pounding sand around a pattern to form a mold have remained basically the same. After the molten metal dried and the pouring jackets were removed, we got our first look at the bell. Now that the bell had been cast, cracked, polished, and mounted, it was a perfect copy of the original. Solid cherry wood was formed and polished to provide a suitable pedestal for the authentic reproduction of our Liberty Bell. The yoke of the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia is slippery elm, a very uncommon variety of the elm family. This piece was discovered in the Sinisippi Forest in Illinois. The slippery elm tree from which it came was estimated to be between 125 and 150 years old. It took 15 years to build the original Independence Hall in Philadelphia, but the form of government which was conceived in this stately building gave us an economic system which allowed this brick-by-brick construction to be completed in 7 months. Fittingly, Independence Hall was dedicated on the 4th of July, 1966, just 190 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Over the years, millions of Americans visiting Independence Hall here at Knott's Berry Farm will be reminded of our great national heritage. The tour begins in Heritage Hall, the companion building nearby. In a little theater, visitors are shown a film that outlines some of the events in history that tell of man's struggle for freedom and independence. Attractive young ladies dressed in authentic colonial costumes conduct the tours. Arriving at the main entrance, the tour enters the Tower Room. The Liberty Bell occupies a place of honor and demands a feeling of reverence. The guide tells the story of the Liberty Bell, which has become a symbol of freedom for all Americans. Next, the tour enters the Declaration Chamber. Through an elaborate electronic sound system, which includes a 14-channel tape and 38 stereo speakers, the audience hears a dramatic sound presentation of the debates leading up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The thoughts and words of the brave men who shaped and signed the Declaration come to life in this room. They closed the document with these famous words. And in support of this declaration, with a reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. A thrilling experience to feel as though you are in the same room with the men who signed the Declaration of Independence, the men who dared death to give birth to our great nation of freedom. Independence Hall at Knott's Berry Farm is a dream come true. Millions of Americans who might never have the opportunity to visit the original building in Philadelphia will come here to Independence Hall in Buena Park, California. School children will touch the Liberty Bell and see where our greatest documents were signed. The growth and success of Knott's Berry Farm is a story that has no ending. More and more people come here every year from all over the globe. It seems the more madly driven and complex our world becomes, the more people turn their eyes in yearning to our historical past and the heritage of greatness represented there. It is also the saga of a farmer and his family who never lost faith in themselves and in each other. Working side by side, they turned a berry patch and a roadside stand into a totally unique tourist attraction. Knott's Berry Farm is truly America's amazing fun farm.